the organization. We have brought this event to you today because we would like to bring awareness to domestic violence, as well as to educate and uplift our community so that we can break the cycle of abuse. We will hear from several guest speakers and performers this evening. Our featured speaker guest is VIVIAN GALE Bennett. VIVIAN is a counselor and addiction music therapist with 17 years clean and sober, over 12 years of experience working within drug and alcohol addiction treatment, providing addiction and mental health treatment, and utilizing individual group and therapy. To learn more about her, you can visit her website at www.viviangale.com. Our special guest performer is Faithful Naomi. Naomi is currently the spiritual daughter of Apostle Helen and Bishop George Sadler at the Into Chamber Ministries International in Kent. And during the years of 2004 to 2006, she ministered through song on several different occasions at the Faithful for Living Covenant Church International. And you can learn more about Faithful Walking at faithfulwalking.faithful.com. And she also is bringing a guest with her as well, and his name is Trevor Spencer. Special guest speakers will be Eric George. He will be sharing a domestic violence perspective from an abuser, or I should say from one who was once an abuser. And he will also share his struggle with overcoming that lifestyle and assisting to end the cycle of abuse. We will also have a special presentation done by HAILLEE LANGSTON. It will be a poem done by myself from one of my books. And you can learn more about HAILLEE at her website, www.youthfulexpressions.com. We would like to thank the sponsors who have helped make this event, and that would be Zola's Cafe, Creative Empowerment Artist Media, Youthful Expressions, National Poetry Awards, Women's Poet International, Starlit Minds Entertainment Group, Pride Line Foundation, and the Homeless Not Hopeless Poet for Change, and Merkel Film. We're going to start off also by sharing that we're going to do a raffle this evening. We're going to have 2 items raffled. The first is going to be 3 $5 coffee cards, and then we're also raffling 3 massage sessions. They're $50 value each, and the raffle tickets are $1 a piece. And you can get them from HAILLEE at the door. We're going to do our first raffle at 5 p.m. and then at 6, and then at 6:45. Our first guest that we're going to bring up is VIVIAN GALE, who also is the author of a book entitled Fart in the Wind. It is a book that helps you understand how emotions affect your health, your body, mind, voice, and emotions, what type of farter you are, tried and tested ways of farting with grace, how your values affect your relationships, and get rid of stinking thinking and random brain farts, and how to heal yourself and your life. So I'd like to bring to the mic VIVIAN GALE.
Amen.
Thank you very much. As she said, I'm an author also, and the subtitle of my book is An Emotional and Spiritual Guide to Graceful and Effective Communication with Anybody. And my philosophy is that once you're in harmony with yourself and the God of your understanding, that you can develop a good relationship with everybody around you. And it's funny and it's serious. So I also have some business cards. You can get a copy of my book. I only have 5, but I can give you an autographed copy tonight, and I'm donating the proceeds to the cause that we're here for tonight. So with that being said, I'm going to get started. I Also sing and play the guitar and write poetry, so I'm going to share some of that with you while I'm talking. We are talking about domestic violence, so I'll try and be sensitive because there are children here. So, I'm going to start out by talking about myself a little bit in my life. I was a child, 7 children, and grew up in the country, and my parents, a lot of my brothers and sisters had sickle cell, and I was the middle child. Not really, but technically I was, because there was 4 girls, a son, and then me, born 14 months later. So I didn't get much attention, because the only son came before me. And 2 of those before me had sickle cell anemia, so they were constantly in the hospital, and etc. So anyways, my parents had a big challenge of raising 5 kids by themselves. And that's never easy. Unfortunately, they raised us with an old school model, which was you got to spank me for pretty much everything you did. And back in the day, there wasn't really a caption or any type of stop, signal that they had. They would just spank you until they got tired, spanking you. Either you go outside and get a switch, or you get a spanking. I remember one time I got a spanking with a radio antenna. And that was very painful. So basically, back in the day, if you just looked at your parents the wrong way, you would get slapped. Back up in church, you got knocked dead. Not only by your parents, but by any person that was your elder up in church. And most of you know what I'm talking about. So anyways, I used a little humor in my book to talk about some of the things that happened to me. When I was 11 and a half, my parents got divorced, and my mother moved out here, out west, to start her life all over again. And she decided not to take me with her, so she sent me to my father's house for the weekend. And then my sister called me and said, "Hey, you better come, Mom's leaving and she's not taking you." So actually, it wasn't my sister, told my best friend that lives next door. So he got on his bike and he rode his bike all the way to my father's house to get me. And I took the bike and rode all the way back to hurry up and get there. And when I got there, she was driving away with my other brothers and sisters in the car. And that was my first original trauma. I was severed from my whole family in that moment. I think they found me on a rock, unconscious. And right beside the rock, there was this big garbage dumpster. And that's next to where we used to live. And so all my life, I felt like nothing. I felt like garbage. My own mother left me. And so that was my first original trauma, like I said. So I'm going to sing a song for you called "I'm a Survivor," which is my mantra. And it stems from some of the things I'm talking about and we'll continue to talk about. Testing 1, 2. I'm a survivor, yeah. I'm a survivor, yeah. I'm a survivor, yeah. Come on and watch me. Come on and watch me. Come on and watch me. Come on and watch me survive. God said He put His hand on me. He put my enemies under my feet. You can throw stones, but I'ma survive. You can knock me down, but I'ma survive. You can walk on me, lie on me, abandon me, and steal from me. But God said He put His hand on me, and I'ma survive. I'ma survive. I'ma survive. I'ma survive. I'ma survive. I'ma survive. Come on and watch me. Come on and watch me. Come on and watch me. You can make me, shake me, break it, or you can make me. So you can lie on me, you can spy on me, you can walk away or run from me. You can beat me, or you can cheat me. If you want, you can even try. Eat me alive, give it your best try. You can't defeat me. I'ma survive. I'ma survive. Yeah. I'ma survive. I'ma survive. 'Cause I'm a survivor. I'm gonna make it. I'm a survivor. You know I can take you. I'm a survivor. I'm gonna make it. I'm a survivor. You know I can take you. I'm a survivor. Yeah. Come on and watch me. Come on and watch me. Come on and watch me. You better watch me now. Come on and watch me. Come on and watch me survive. Survive my mother, survive my father, survive my sister, survive my brother, survive religion, survive the system. I'm a survivor. Survive my mother, survive my father, survive my sister, survive my brothers, survive religion, survive the system. I'm a survivor. Come on and watch me. Come on and watch me. Come on and watch me. Come on and watch me survive. Thank you. So, as I was saying, I've been through a lot of experience in my life, and that song was my mantra, and it actually helped me free myself from the abuse that I had been through. So, even when I was a child, when I was home, my parents, they were emotionally and physically abusive. And a lot of people think about domestic violence, and they think about a man basically beating a woman. You know, it took me many years for me to even realize that I was a victim of domestic violence when I was growing up. I probably didn't even realize it fully, you know, until I started thinking about this event and, you know, the things that I was going to say. I was going to take the easy way out and use some chapters from my book, but I thought, you know, the best way to talk to people is from your heart and to be authentic about who you are and about your life. You never know what's going to happen to you in your life when you grow up. So, anyways, that is a little bit of my story. I've been in the hospital from broken bones when my mother used to beat me, and then I was also at that time a victim of incest. I have a poem I'm going to share from you from the book. It's called The Treason, or The Little Girl Inside. Little girl, don't cry. Wipe your eyes, it'll be all right. Little girl, don't tell. Don't swell, just smile nice. When they ask you why you don't laugh anymore, why you don't skip and run, little girl, don't tell. Don't swell, just smile nice. I'm your Papa Demon friend, sick-ass ruler. I always tell you what to do. Trust me, my dainty, I love you. Run, little girl, run. Hide. Don't let him touch you inside. The torch turns into battlefield wounds, too grievous to bear. No Veterans Day for you, just PTSD, day after year. Run, little girl. Run. Hide. Hide, little girl. 30 years gone by. Is the little girl all right? Still, she wipes her eyes as she smiles. While she smiles, in the inside, an ocean of tears saturate her soul as she lives her plastic life remote, obscured. What won't she do to hide her anguish? She's drowning, no one to save her. so she can't swim, only wade in the tide. She's standing, but her legs are crumbling from the marrow outward, so she sinks in the sand. So she dies by never living, so she dies by never trusting, so then she dies by never fully embracing love and life, and never fully believing and feeling the healing salve of love. Little girls cry. That's why. Little girls cry. They die. That's the reason. The treason. So I wrote that poem when a friend of mine on MySpace asked me to write something for her to put on her page. She has a page that is very supportive for children and people and women who have been through abusive situations. Okay, so when I was a child, if I'm talking about something that happened to me, I'm not talking about the people who did it, I'm talking about what happened to me. So in my family, there was a lot of emotional abuse and stuff like that, but I'm an overcomer, and that's the greatest part of any story, is that you can live to come out on the other side. And everybody has a story. Nobody's life is easy and nobody's life is perfect. And a lot of times we don't even talk about the things that happen to us in our life because we're ashamed. And because I was one of the people who told, even before my mother abandoned me, I ran away from home a lot because she would beat me, and I would run away, and because I was tired of the spankings, I was tired of the emotional abuse, I was just so sick and tired of all the things that were happening in my family. And one of the things that is a very popular statement that you hear in broken families is don't talk about what happens in this house, don't trust anybody, and don't feel. Don't talk about your emotions. And so those were the three things that I was always afraid of. That if I told, about what was going to happen, what was happening to me, that I would be homeless without a place to live. But I couldn't take it anymore, and I ended up telling, and that's exactly what happened. I ended up without a place to live. So after my mother abandoned me, I stayed with my father. I guess, I don't know how I got there to this day. I was catatonic for 2 weeks. I didn't go to school, I didn't talk, I didn't eat anything. So all I remember was my father one day, I was coming out of it, and the phone was in my ear, and it was my mother's voice. By that time, she had moved from Connecticut all the way to Washington, and she was saying, Vivian, are you there? I asked you if you wanted to come. And I just got so mad. I just went back into my, catatonic state. Wherever I was, but I started to feel the anger. I started to feel everything that I was escaping from by anesthetizing all the things that happened to me. I always say that I've been through too much, more than what one person can bear. But I think that before we come here, we make an agreement with God, that the Bible says that God knew us before we were born. And so I believe that somehow we knew what our trials and our tribulations were going to be, and we said, okay, I'll do it. But I can tell you something, I was crazy. Whoever, that person was up there that says, okay, I'll do it, I'll suffer these things. And so I don't have any resentments towards my parents today, but it took a long time. It took a long time for me to forgive my ancestor, and it was my father, so I kept waiting for him to say he was sorry. And he never said he was sorry, and so when we would have family gatherings and stuff like that, everybody else would gather around him because they would pretend that nothing happened. And so they would just tell me to get over it, or it was like 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 15 years ago, get over it. And I just kept waiting for him to say he was sorry. He never said he was sorry, and so that kept me angry for so many years. And then finally I realized one day that I was going to have to let go anyway, even if he never said he was sorry. And so I began working on that. I began working on forgiveness for myself, and I began working on emotional healing. So this is the first one of my book. It's really a metaphor for emotional reflections and the stuff that we hold on to. And in studying about feelings and emotions, I learned that they actually make you sick. And so because I internalized so much of my feelings all my life, I became ill. I was diagnosed with lupus. I mean, in this book I talk about it. After a while, the list got so long, I got embarrassed to even tell you anybody. But on the upside, it made me learn how to, seek healing from a holistic perspective. And so in this beginning of this book, I do talk about emotional reflection, as I talked about the body and how your emotions affect your health, and ways that you can, when you get better emotionally, then you get better physically. And so that's what I believe. So as I've been getting better and healing myself emotionally, I've also been getting better physically. So a little bit about domestic violence is that a lot of times we don't understand the reason why people do the things that they do. And then as I got older, I found out that my mother was a victim of sexual abuse. I never found out about my father and why he was the way he was, but I had to come to a place where I understood that we become what we hate. And if we don't seek the help that we need, then we're going to continue the cycle in our own families. And so that's when I ended up becoming a counselor, sort of, skip some stuff, but I ended up becoming a counselor, and that helped me to work on my own issues, but it was very difficult. So a person that usually is violent domestically is suffering from their own inner emotions and from their own unresolved issues that they've never taken care of. And so when they go into treatment, as a counselor, I had an opportunity to work with some people that were abusers, and I couldn't do it. It was very difficult for me. I wanted to do it. I wanted to sit in a courtroom with a person who had actually abused people, but at that time I still hadn't addressed all of the issues that I had with it myself. So, I chose not to do it. But just the idea, that was going on. I didn't even know that there were programs for them. I didn't know, And in a way I was glad that they were there and they were in it however they got there, but at the same way I just wanted to take a gun and go shoot them all, It was kind of like when I got clean and sober, and a friend of mine, her husband was in Al-Anon. Well, she went to Al-Anon, I'm sorry, for her husband, he wouldn't go to AA. And so when I went to an Al-Anon meeting before I was waiting to go to treatment, before I had 30 days clean and sober, I went into an Al-Anon meeting, and when I heard the stories and how hurt they were by the addict and alcoholic's behavior, I didn't dare open my mouth. I thought I would be stoned to death. That I was actually one of those people that caused you some of your pain. But like I said, over the years, like when you're in that moment and you're still dealing with it, you have so many raw emotions, and I just thank God, that I continue to, to pour my heart out to God, to cry and to strive and to find every measure I could to get better, that, I did. And it wasn't easy. And I lost my family all over again. I moved here 11 years ago to have my children know this side of my family, and I had a few good years with them, but it started all over again. They didn't know how to support me when I was having a difficult time. Actually, I got raped by a deacon in one of the churches that I was attending, and then my brother literally said, "Oh boy, don't start this story all over again. What does every guy you see want to rape you?" And I don't think that's true. I do think that when we have issues that we haven't fully dealt with, that they'll keep coming back into our life until we address them. So that's my story, and I'm speaking to it. Coercion. And my mother and father would do that. Like my mother, she locked me in the room one whole summer. And how I got out was I climbed out the window. There wasn't any electricity, we didn't have electricity. So she took all my brothers and sisters out to dinner, and she locked me in my bedroom, so she told me not to come out. Well, I was used to that. I think that's why I used to read so much and write so much, because I was always isolated. And that's one of the things that they do, abusers, they isolate you. For some reason, they've targeted you for their hatred, or targeted you as a scapegoat for your pain. And I was that person, and a lot of people in my family say it's because I looked the most like her. So, anyways, I jumped out the window that day, and when I was in that room, I promised myself that if my mother ever hit me again, that I was going to hit her back. And like I said, I'd been in the hospital from her hitting me before, and nobody ever believed me because I was a kid. So when we went to court, I remember the judge asked me, about a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, and sent me back home. But before we went to court, my mother threatened me that if I said anything about her negative, that when I got home it was going to be a lot worse. And so I knew from history that I was going to end up going back home. So I was afraid to tell the truth about the things that were happening through her. One time she beat me with a metal ruler. I used to carry it. It was my own metal ruler, and broke a couple of my fingers. And so I ran to our pastor's house, and I told him, I started emptying myself of some of the things that were happening. His wife and my mother were best friends, so he didn't believe me either. So I got sent back. I kept getting sent back into the abusive situation. By this time, my father was gone. So that final time I hit my mother, I ran. All my brothers and sisters chased me, and they started beating me up too because I hit my mother. I was just sick and tired of it, and so, you know, they chased me down Main Street. I wrote a song about that one too. It's called Sometimes You Just Gotta Walk Through Life with One Shoe. And it's because when I was running, I lost one shoe, and they were still chasing me. And so I didn't stop to get my shoe, I just kept on running, you know. And so I can laugh about that today, but when I got to my destination, you know, I never went back to my mother's house from there. And so it took me 2.5 years to get to live with my father. By then I was 15. When I got to live with my father, I didn't remember the sexual abuse from the past. I was too young, and so I stuffed it. All I remember was hiding in the closets, running from him anytime we were alone, you know, locking myself, always making sure I was safe away from him. I remember one Sunday everybody went to church and I was sick, and my mom was like, "Who wants to stay out with Vivian?" And my dad said, "I will." He was all too happy, and I was like, "Oh my God." And so that whole day I couldn't even rest. You know, I was hiding across the street. There was a farm with weeds and cows. I was there all day, sick, laying in the bushes. But before I got out the house, I heard him walking around. "Vivian, where are you? Vivian, where are you?" And I was just like, "God, please help me get out of here," you know. And so I was able to get out of here, and I escaped that event. But when I was in treatment for drugs and alcohol, I went through a series of broken relationships in my life. Anybody that told me they loved me, I clung to them like glue, and they were all abusive for some reason. I guess I was an abuse attractor, a magnet. I attracted what I was. You know, you attract people who are on the same level as you are. And so people who have been abused, women or men, will gravitate towards people who abuse until they learn how to break the cycle. I used to work for a program, I think in Tacoma, and they had a program called Break the Cycle. And so that stuck in my head as that's always something that's possible that we can do. We can break the cycle so that we don't repeat the same thing to our children. And I remember one day when I was put in that situation where I was almost about to become the abuser. And I prayed and I cried, I stayed up all night. I just would not allow myself to cross that line. And I thank God that I was able to overcome that. And I had to do it more than once. Then I started going to counseling for sexual abuse. And then I heard a lot of stories that I never could imagine. Like women like me who had abused their sons and were living with that guilt. And I just thank God that I never had crossed that bridge, you know. So, but for the grace of God, go I, you know, I'm an overcomer. Getting better is a lot of work. Don't let anybody fool you. You know, and if you're holding on to any type of sexual abuse, any type of emotional abuse that you haven't discussed or talked to anybody about, you're only as sick as your secrets. That's something they say in AA. And I found that to be true. So, how much time do I have left? Okay, so you're only as sick as your secrets. And as a counselor, I became a counselor when I got clean and sober. I had 1 year, and I decided to go back to school. Actually, God chose that career for me. I didn't want to do it. I wanted to go be like Oprah, you know, be in the news and be best friends with GALE, and, you know, had a good voice for speaking. And I didn't end up doing it. And it's like I went to an AA convention that weekend. And that weekend, the Holy Spirit was really messing with me because I said to God, you know, and I talked to God just like I'm talking to you. And I said, God, you know, I'm willing to do your will with my life to show me what it is. And I said that before I went to the NA convention. And when I went, it was given to me to write addiction and recovery music. And so that's what I started doing, and I'm still working on my first CD. And it's called Celebrate Live. So, anyways, you can get my business cards and you can listen to some of my sample songs on MySpace. I have another song that I will share with you. It's called Freedom. And freedom is a name that I took for myself as a proclamation of my freedom. If you look on my website, it's geared toward personal freedom. That's what I stand for. And so what I hope to be able to do with individuals and families and with organizations wherever I'm led and allowed to serve is to help people become free. Personal freedom, which I define as emotional freedom, spiritual freedom, physical freedom, and something else that you'll hear in my song. There's 5 aspects of it. And I mean, some people that, you know, if you ask them about me, like my brother, you know, he's a minister and a pastor, I don't know. I just assume, you know, that they'll probably think that I'm still, you know, messed up in the head, you know, from all the stuff that happened to me. But you know, the funny thing about it is the same people that make you crazy are the ones that will point and say, hey, look, she's crazy, stay away from her. You know, and so yeah, I've been through some bouts with insanity or on the edge of it and not quite knowing if I was there yet. But if you have to ask, right? Am I insane? Is this the moment? Have I finally lost my mind? Well then, you know, I guess you have to, you know, remember that. And so I have my own children. I have 5 children out of my life, 5 children that I raised by myself, who I'm all very proud of, you know, and they're all 3 of them went to college, the other 2 are still 20 and 18, and they're doing really well, and they're my biggest supporters, and I know when I look at them that I was here for a reason. So I went through this thing with them too, where I wanted to exert power and control over them, because that's all I knew. I was only parenting the way I knew how to parent, and one day I saw myself standing over my daughter with my hand up about to punch her, and she was caught like in a corner, you know, and all of a sudden I had a physical, like a vision, where I became my mother and she became me. It was so freaking weird. It's just like it actually happened, and I stopped, you know, and I didn't hit her. And, you know, from that day on, I made it my mission to, you know, get better. And so what happened, I was already working as a counselor, and they needed somebody to teach a parenting class. And so I volunteered to teach the parenting class so that I can have the materials, you know, to learn from. And that really helped me a lot. I didn't want to raise my hand and say, hey, you know, I'm a counselor and I need help with my kids, you know, help me. You know, I was embarrassed, you know, but believe me, there's a lot of counselors out there that still need good counseling. And as a matter of fact, when I was in college going to counseling, our teacher, our professor suggested that we all go, so we know what it's like to be on the other side. And I was the only one at the end of the semester that actually did it. You know, so anyway, so it's all about power and control, and I started to do that with my children, and I didn't want to become what I hated. I didn't want to become my parents. I didn't want to continue the cycle of abuse in my family. And so I did everything that I had to do. And as a result, you know, I became a counselor. You know, I taught parenting classes. I went to the treatment for drug and alcohol. I, became a parenting instructor, and so I could learn everything that I needed to learn so that I wouldn't do the same thing to my children. But domestic violence is real. Don't be passive about it because it's a child, and stand up for them. You know, if they tell you that something happens, you know, you have to stand up for that child because they don't have anybody to fight for them. You know, even if they're lying, I'd rather be on the side of the child because nobody was there for me, nobody believed me, you know, and so I took my daughter's side when she told me that she had an incident with a family member, and I wasn't sure that I really entirely believed her, but I chose to stand by her anyways, you know, and so anyway, I'm going to share a song with you called Freedom, and that's my new mantra. I'm playing the guitar without some noise.
I
want to welcome everyone back to the first annual Red Dress Affair Fundraiser, brought to you by staff.org. In the first hour here, we have VIVIAN GALE, and I want to learn more about her at viviangale.com. Our next special guest speaker is George. He's going to come and help us to understand what it's like to live through abuse as an abuser, but also to understand his process that he's going through to heal himself and those that was affected by the abuse. So I'd like to welcome George.
Facing yourself, I think, is one of the hardest things to do in life. Looking at yourself in the mirror, knowing who you are, and just living a day-to-day life. I don't think people every day look in the mirror, telling themselves how beautiful they are, or what kind of person they are, and what they're going to be in their future. You need to do that. That's like every day when I get dressed. I got to tell myself I look good when I step out the door, and I'm going to have a good day, So, just to give you a breakdown about me, my name is George. Today's my birthday, I'm 32. Thank you for my mom coming, her name is Jen, for bringing me in this world, my best friend Tim, and for you guys giving me this opportunity to be here. Excuse me, I'm a little emotional right now. Excuse me. The person that I've been, I want to say for the last 10 years, has not been the best person of how my mom has raised me and what she wanted out of me or expected out of me. She did a beautiful job at raising me. We had our ups and our downs, just like any parent has with their child. I have children myself, 6. So I really commend you for what you've done. And you still being here for me, for all the troubles that I put you through. We went through tough love and everything. And I was emancipated at the age of 16. And I blamed my parents for emancipating me. I don't feel like I was ready to be emancipated, or even felt like that I even knew how to even raise myself. But I took that step and, lived my life and kept going and did what I had to do. Also, for the last 10 years, I've been in and out of jail. I just recently was incarcerated for 6 months for a domestic violence situation. Because that has been my pattern in life. The people that have always loved me the most, I've took my anger out on. And so what I'm trying to do within myself is trying to find a better way on how to deal with my situations on an everyday basis and surround myself with better people than I used to. Because I feel like who you surround yourself with, sometimes you're just going to be like them. So if you surround yourself with good people, you should end up being a good person. So my phone's going crazy right now. Excuse me. I'm just kind of lost in my mind right now. It's kind of overwhelming. So basically what I'm saying is, it's been a long journey, and I'm happy to be here. I'm here for a reason. And I'm definitely supporting this because I need to stop. From the hurt that I put on of the women that have been in my life, that have been there for me, and just make a difference, not just for me, but for my kids. Because they look up to me as they're being their role model, their guidance, and knowing what type of person they should be in their life. 4 boys and 2 girls. It's a lot. I put myself in that situation. I'm gonna do the job to be the dad that I need to be. So, as me needing to be this role model that I need to be, I'm making that step to want to make a difference. And today, I'm doing everything I can to stop and make that difference. So I support stopping domestic violence all the way. And I'm gonna stay on this journey with you guys and support you guys in any way that I can. So thank you. That's just to give you guys, you know, an insight about me and what's been going on with me and how I want to change. Yeah. So I put together a little poem and I'm gonna read it to you guys. As I stand here staring myself down in the mirror, it shatters. Shatters from the shame of what I have done. Shatters from the disappointment from my loss of control. Shatters from the disgust of myself. Shatters from the hurt in your eyes. Shatters from the loss of your trust. Shatters from knowing things can never be the same. Shatters from the broken promise I made to myself to change. Shatters from the inability to look at myself in the eye. I've already told you my name. My name is Eric George. I'm here acknowledging my actions in my past. I have hurt a lot of people that cannot be taken back. I'm here because I want to and need to change and break the cycle of domestic violence. My actions have not only taken the innocence of my victims, but have taken a huge emotional toll on myself. Like a clown, I put on a show, masking my pain and misery. Violence not only hurts the victims, it hurts the perpetrator. The cycle of violence needs to come to an end. For that to happen, both the victim and the perpetrator need help. I would never minimize the effects my actions take on anyone, but I am here to tell you that I hurt too. Not knowing how to handle this hurt has played a significant role in why I am here today. I'm here to confess to everyone and acknowledge I need to make a change from within. Thank you.
Eric for that. You know, it's not an easy task to step up and actually own to something that you have done that might hurt others. But I do commend you, and I thank you very much for sharing your experience. And we wish to be with you along that journey of healing. Our next speaker that we're going to bring to the stage is HAILLEE Langston. She's going to do a poem from my book entitled Butterflies in Heartache. And she is also the founder of an organization called Youthful Expressions. And her website is www.youthfulexpressions.com. She likes to talk about everything from things that are bothering us in the world, from homelessness to even how she enjoys cupcakes. And the book that she's reading from is Unrequited Love and Letting Go. And the title of the poem is Before the Healing. Here's HAILLEE.
Cupcakes, but I always want to write about something about food or something about shapes, and you can erase it, because if you love something, then you can make it a poem. Lots of people sometimes write poems about, well, there's an example, some people like lollipops. People can write a poem about lollipops or balloons. So here's a poem that my mom wrote that I think is really good. Good morning, my heartache. I awake to see you laying next to me once again. You are reaching out and embrace me as we are friends. This is being The sun is beaming through the window. It would be nice to enjoy, but you will only guide me to the shadows of my heart. So the dark I can see way out. I shall live the life of a blind woman. Your walls continue to close in on me like a rat. Like a rat, I'm trapped, running in the never-ending circle.
Brilliant, because one day I realized I felt like pain was an actual entity that would chase me down whenever I was trying to be happy, whenever I was trying to be successful, whenever I was trying to forget about my past. And so I thought that if I spoke to my pain, that I would be able to befriend her, or him, or it, and in that befriending, stop being stalked by my pain. So this poem is called Clutches of Love, and it's on page 37. Clutches of Love. Oh pain, please release me from your relentless clutches of lunacy. Why have you come again to reclaim my mind, my body, and my soul? Oh pain, your big stalking stare is getting old. Fully fledged, you have no mercy. Go away from me. I can handle this all on my own. Who called for you besides? Sleep. Leave me to soak and soak in the valley of my tear-filled abode. Don't ever lay your hands on me again. Imprints from where you have clutched me in the past still mark my soul. Go, trample the feet of them that have stolen my revel for life. Trample on me no more. Stalk the paths of those that have deceived, manipulating themselves and me. You take more of me than I even own. I hate you more. Give me back my fake friends and their fake smiles. Make void their proclamations of I love you. And you know I always got your back, girl. Send them back their fictions. Give them rocks like Charlie Brown. Them and all their facelessness is easier to swallow than the brutal monogamities of you. Bring them back, please. Bring them back, please. Go away from me. I don't want what has been sown. You plant a seed that flowers, briars, and thorns, impossible to bear. Have you come to laugh at my faith, hope, and juvenile trust I've situated in earthen vessels, not yet awakened to their own souls? You have stolen all the me I've known. I don't have the strength to gain me back again. So keep your ill-gotten gain in the dark and sullen clenches of your unpardoning abode, and release me into the clutches of love. And so the actual writing of this poem was hours, and it came with a lot of tears and sobbing, but I think at the end of it I was able to make my pain my friend. You know, and as I began to make her my friend, I was able to nurture her and nurture pain, and I wasn't afraid of it anymore, so I stopped running away from my pain, and I started addressing my pain, and that's when I started becoming a whole person. So I'm going to sing a song for you that I wrote a few years ago. It's called It's Okay. I'm singing this song for the young man who just spoke. What's his name? Eric, I'm singing this song, dedicating it to you.
Thank you.
And to anyone else in the audience that has been moved or touched by feelings that they didn't know what to do with. It's okay not to be okay for a little while. It's alright to fall down to fall down on your knees and cry. It's okay, and it's alright. Don't ever let anybody tell you anything different. If you're in pain, you deserve, and you have the right to cry, as long as it hurts. There's no timetable on when you'll feel better, or when things are going to change. You just have to trust your Creator, and trust your inner self, and listen to that little child inside, and give her or him the time to heal. Never be afraid of tears. Never be afraid of crying, because those are the things that change us, and that's where transformation takes place. Not on the mountaintop, but it takes place in our valleys.
Previous two speakers, which was HAILLEE LANGSTON for doing my poem from my book, Unrequited Love, as well as VIVIAN and GALE for doing her song and her poem. You know, I created STAP.org because there's a thin line between what is abuse and what is actually just a dispute between a man and a woman, of a mother and child. And a lot of times people feel that if they are in an abusive situation, that it is their fault. That they somehow cause the individual to make them be the way that they are. As we had learned from Eric, that there are other underlying issues that make that situation come to be. And that's what I wanted STAP.org to do. I want to be a foundation for everyone to heal, from the abuser to the one that's being abused. But we have to come together as a whole to do that. Every 9 seconds in the U.S. there's a woman that is abused. And domestic violence is the leading cause of injury to women, even more than car accidents, muggings, and rape. Studies suggest that up to 10 million children witness some form of domestic violence annually. Nearly 1 in 5 teenage girls who have been in a relationship said a boyfriend threatened violence or self-harm if presented with a breakup. Every day in the U.S., more than 3 women are murdered by their husband or boyfriends. 92% of women surveyed listed that reducing domestic violence and sexual assault as her top concern. Domestic violence victims lose nearly 8 million days of paid work per year in the U.S. alone. That is equivalent of 32,000 full-time jobs. Based upon reports in 10 countries, between 55 and 95% of women who have been physically abused by their partners never contacted non-governmental agencies for assistance. The cost of intimate partner violence in the U.S. alone exceeds $5.8 billion per year. $4.1 billion are for direct medical and healthcare services, while productivity loses account nearly $1.8 billion in the workforce. And men who, as children, witnessed their parents' domestic violence were twice as likely to abuse their own wives and sons of non-violent parents. Many think that just by leaving a domestic violence situation means that that scar ceases to exist, that a person can just move on and leave their other paths behind, but that's really not true. Because that they are torn down both physically and emotionally, it makes it difficult for them at times to live productive lives as well as meaningful relationships. I have a poem that I'm going to share. It's entitled Immortalized. It will highlight the fact that abuse that was taking place can live long after the abuser is gone. Tears reach out to kiss my face through my soul and eyes. Cries no longer exist. Just white noises heard ringing in my ears. It has been 3 years since I've spoken to my family. 3 years since I worked and earned my own money. 3 years since I've been outside these walls. 2 years since he had a son, not mine, and I raised him in our home. 1 year since receiving medical treatment for that fall up his fist. 1 week and 2 days since I ran into the door and bruised both eyes. Never do I say that he is the one that lays his hands on me. Never would I expect him to be sorry for what he says he did not do. All these things done, I caused it, and down to his infidelity. He could not make love to me because my body is covered with cigarette burns. And this is hideous to him. Was it really that he did not want to face himself sketched in my flesh? I am his canvas and he is the artist. My wrists wear permanent bracelets where the wire once lay, bounding my body to a chair, causing me to hold my bladder for hours on end until I could no longer. I am his handiwork, but this artist does not want to leave his signature on his masterpiece. Are my broken jaw and nose appealing to him? Does he not love the whelps that run down my back? It got to the point that he just would not look at me, period. If he did, his eyes grew with rage. His belly soured from his guilt. Years went by and I continued to wear his masterpiece on my canvas. Continued to raise his son whom he did not even know. Eyes no longer swollen, but those tears kissed my cheeks daily. And daily he would avoid me as though I was the plague. In reality, he was his own. Alcohol was his nourishment. Dreams of his abuse toward me haunted his dreams and masked his reality so it would be all he could see. Eyes opened or closed. I found him one day, morning after getting his son off to school. He drank himself to death. Most likely trying to calm the voices in his head, change the fact that he is the artist that created me. My cries no longer exist, but his existence has been immortalized in my scars. I wrote another piece that is kind of on the lines of the abuser, but he's apologizing for his actions. And this piece is entitled Pieces of Time. Tick, tick, tick. I listen to the clock tick in my mind as I sit on my throne on my 8x10 castle. A man's castle is his home, and his home a sanctuary, until I gained a mortgage at the state prison. Trapped away from the world, but not from my sins. Nightly I could see your face, hear your screams, recall your pleading cries. I didn't care that I took your childhood. My only concern was of my own satisfaction. Physical pleasure, tick, tick, tick. I tried to hold on to pieces of time because mine is running out. I want to ask for your forgiveness. I am sorry for the pain I caused. Stealing an emotion you will not be able to get back. the enjoyment of the first touch, first embrace. Tick, tick, tick. Time is running out for me, struggling to capture some glimpse of hope with no light in sight. I wish I could give you back those pieces of time. The next piece that I'm going to share with you is entitled Emotional Train Wreck. And the inspiration behind this piece is to share that even our children at a very young age is really impacted by the abuse, and it could take them to a level of hatred that no child should ever have to endure. Of freedom. Hush, little baby, don't say a word. That is the only part of the nursery rhyme I could recall. It was my mama's signature, then sealing her unholy act with a kiss. Ever since Daddy stopped being her king, not caring about her period. No good mornings, no I love yous. I became her fantasy. Bounding my breast, wear a short fro. No dresses, no dolls to play with. I was transformed into her little man. Christine dies and Kevin was born. Hush, little baby, don't say a word. Sealing her unholy acts with a kiss. Childhood dreams become a distant memory. Other girls played house, dreamed of their prince, being a mother and wife. My dream, a horror made into reality. My reality, her death. I was only 13 and already was doing a life in prison. Trading this life for 8 by 10 sounds like freedom. And I wanted freedom. Hush, little baby, don't say a word. Before she could seal it with a kiss, she felt a sharp pain in her throat. The switchblade she bought me to protect me from the men in the world stuck out into her neck. Blood oozed and covered the engraving, Mama loves her little girl. I recall when the handcuffs were placed on my wrist, the officer asked, was it worth your freedom? Proudly I said, her last breath was my freedom. I felt like I was an emancipated slave. The next poem that I'm going to share is entitled 16 Candles. My sweet 16 was supposed to be like a fairy tale. Our friends and I dressed in gowns and tucks, celebrating life, dancing till dawn. Pictures galore, sweet poems, anxious nerves, wondering if we would be kissed under the mistletoe. Instead, my 16 candles were 4 stitches to my face, 1 puncture to my lungs. Relying upon a breathing apparatus, my left leg is broken in 3 places. I have to use a catheter and deemed incontinent. My stepfather angry that I had a boyfriend, angry that I would not let him touch me. 2 knives wounds to my torso, 1 black eye, 3 broken fingers, 1 dead boyfriend. You see, when Patrick arrived to pick me up, my stepfather was waiting on the porch with a shotgun. Patrick never made it to the porch. My stepfather and I fought. He figured now he would get what he wanted. I was not going to allow him to take my innocence. My virginity was not his to decide when I was to lose it. Sweet 16 was bittersweet. I cannot blow out my candles. I have to wait for my 16 candles to fill. children are precious gifts from God, and with this in mind, we want to do all that we can to protect them from harm. It is our job to ensure our children that we know what the dangers are and the signs that danger is near. We need to pull together and be an umbrella over our children. Child abuse is more than bruises and broken bones. While physical abuse might be the most visible signs, other types of abuse, such as emotional abuse, child neglect, also leave deep, long-lasting scars. Some signs of child abuse are subtler than others. However, by learning what you can do about abuse, you can make a huge effect in your child's life. The earlier abuse children get, the greater chance they have to heal from the abuse and not perpetuate the cycle. Learn the signs and symptoms of child abuse and break the cycle by finding out where to get help in children and their caregivers. Learn the signs and symptoms of child abuse and help break the cycle. And we can assist you with that at www.stopabuseplease.org. Another factor of abuse that many choose not to face that actually exists is the abuse of men. You know, women are said to be the weaker vessels and that men are stronger, so how can a woman abuse a man, period? But daily, there are men that suffer from abuse silently. It can go from emotional abuse done by verbally outraged wars between the man and woman, even down to physical. I wrote a poem entitled Emotional Train Wreck to showcase what exactly a man tends to go through with abuse. Her words ran through me like a runaway train crashing into the mountainside. All aboard, tickets please. This is a non-refundable one-way ticket to emotional destitute. Please notice there are no emergency exits, no seat belts, no first aid to bandage wounds, and yes, you may have a fucked up day. Thank you for traveling with Bitches RS train. The conductor stood fire-free, 140 pounds, 36, 24, 28. Smiled sweet as candy. Oh, how he loved her, and then she began to articulate thought. That sounds bad, but at first it was stimulating conversation until he uttered the words, I love you, let's get married. In the vows it should have said, do you take this woman to be your lawfully wedded wife in sickness and in health, and in her bitchiness until you commit emotional suicide? You never think of a man being the emotionally weaker, fragile to the point of no return. It started with extremely innocent jokes, he, ha, ha, in front of her friends. All laughs until her words turned into train wrecks. You are never going to be the man that I need, she would say faithfully at breakfast. 2 years, 5 days, 13 hours, and 20 minutes we have been married. I could always depend upon my morning travels to I Can Do Betterville, followed by a layover at 30 seconds, I should never get back. I really never thought much of it. She seemed depressed, and I knew that she had a sorrowful past. Being her emotional punching bag didn't seem harmful. When asked by friends, does this happen often? I felt compelled to protect her, create excuses for her demeanor, even I did not believe them. She is my wife, I am her husband. I truly believe that this was temporary and it would soon pass, just as the sands in an hourglass that time for this treatment would work out. Truthfully, I felt I was okay. No bruises to be seen, no scars to hide. I would keep telling myself that I know she loves me. Then she educated me according to her knowledge. If you don't speak up for yourself, I would not put you through these things. I've been testing you and you have failed, she says. Proceeding to let me know that if I was a man, I would not allow her to speak ill of me. I would work 4 or 5 jobs to make sure she is happy and wanting nothing. Funny that she never mentioned her needs, for she knew those were always met. If I was a man, I would lay down my hands and set her straight, she says. Can you imagine that? If I do speak up, she says, I'm not respecting her. Her lies are immortalized as truth within her mind, forgetting that I was the one that loved her. But she says, I never loved you, just wanted to be a kept woman. It was at that point I realized that, yes, I had no physical wounds. Emotionally, I was a wreck, bound up inside as though I collided with the wall of rocks. My train ride was not over yet. You see, I had only begun this journey. I still had my pit stop in. Who would want your broke ass? You are more worthless than a maimed horse. These emotional bruises I incurred hurt deeper than a blade in my back. Scarring so deep that no bandages could ever heal or cover it. All aboard, the conductor yells out every morning. Until one morning she finds her train has no passengers. She is left at the train depot holding her anger in one hand and misery in the other. What hearing her distorted thoughts fry her brain. She begins her train ride solo. Her final destination, loneliness and despair. With no light in sight, I wish I could give you back those. Another reason that I also had started Stop.org is because I went through a domestic violence situation while I was married to my first husband. And just as we learned from Vivian earlier in the event that, sometimes we can live under these conditions and not realize exactly that we are being abused. Fortunately for me, I was not on the end of the physical receiving, but still that emotional abuse was deep cutting, just the same. A little bit after I had my daughter, I had already was feeling a little down about myself because I had gained weight. I wasn't feeling very, I didn't feel much like a woman, really. I just felt like a blob that existed. And of course, there was that postpartum depression that most of us women go through. And unfortunately for me, mine went a whole lot longer than just those first few months. And we get to the point to where we justify our spouse or our boyfriend's actions because we really do feel that if we would have done something different, that they would not have done or said some of the things that they do. But in reality, that's really not true. We can do everything they expect you to do, but the moment that something in their life does not go right, they have a rough day at work, their car breaks down, they always say that it's easier for someone to take it out on their loved ones who are closer to expect that person to forgive them versus doing so with someone that they don't even know. Stop.org, we strive really to educate and to uplift, and we want to do so by bringing in the community and to also give a home for those who are in need of healing. With that in mind, we will be having workshops all throughout the year, starting in January. The first workshop the first of many is entitled Lion's Heart. And this is a prevention training program, as well as a healing one, to assist men who have dealt with emotional abuse, but as well as to give a foundation for those who were on the end of being the abuser We want to help them to understand that you can't always make a change in your life. For some, that change may need to a new job. Maybe they need to uplift their spirits that way. Maybe they need to go through education. And through this one program as well, we will provide employment training, scholarships for school, and referrals to mental health organizations for counseling. The next one is Wisdom's Heart, and this would touch the basis of elderly abuse, which we know is really rampant throughout the country, especially in the nursing homes and a lot of times in private homes. Wisdom Heart pumps life into our elderly community by teaching the signs of abuse, how to prevent, where each of us can seek help and guidance in an abusive situation. This workshop is designed for families, health organizations, and the general public. And the next one is STOP's HAILLEE, which this one is designed for the children. We know that it takes a village to raise a child and a nation to raise a village. We should provide them with resources and education to know how to protect themselves, to know the signs of possible abuse. But we will also help provide scholarships for medical, mental health, and counseling. And the last one is Woman's Love. And this workshop is designed to give women their strength and the ability to heal. A strength of a woman is her love. And however, after living through an abusive situation, this strength is demolished as if the abuse itself was kryptonite to the woman. Our Woman's Love program is designed to assist women to get back to self-love. Learn how to love oneself after weathering the storm of an abuse. This renewal of self-love will give each woman the ability to face the challenge of living and enjoying life. Staff Earth strives to be the foundation which these women can grow and love oneself, for each are beautiful butterflies waiting to spread their wings. Staff Earth will offer regular workshops and seminars to assist women, men in this task, along with employment and educational seminars. The employment seminars will consist of resume building, mock interviews. The education portion will consist of classes which individuals can attend to obtain a new skill or certificate of completion. There will also be scholarship offered to allow individuals to obtain schooling and refresher courses. I would like to thank everyone for taking up their time and being here with us as we have celebrated our first annual Red Dress Affair. I would like to close it with a poem that was written by Rosemary Wilson, and it's entitled Courageous Goodbye. Can't view you as a man to be held in high esteem. You are vulgar, immoral, selfish, and mean. The kinds of words I've formerly heard you say, very seldom now, if ever come my way. Fingers with which I locked when we recited or roused, are connected to the hands I presently disavow. The hands I held while walking through the streets became weapons of destruction, knocking me off my feet. The charming voice I heard conveying the words I love you, replaying profanity while my skin is beat black and blue. You repeatedly apologized, saying you never strike me again. Those words promptly changed after you drank 5 o'clock gin. When I asked you why you treat me the way you do, you replied, baby, it's me, has nothing to do with you. I worked to raise our children, I cooked and I cleaned. Made sure your needs were fulfilled and our home stayed serene. The special things I do for you were never quite enough. I loved you as your woman. You made being your wife tough. I was here with you when we had no wealth. Stood by your side in sickness and in health. I did what I could and endured all I can before reality set in and I realized you're not a real man. My mind, heart, and eyes are no longer saw the man I knew. For you were just a shell of a man, you had no clue. What an example you set for the children we're raising. I'm being sarcastic, darling, not singing your praises. A real man would never hit a woman, that cowardly affair. I felt enough toxic taps and suffered more than I could bear. We've gone through counseling, even met with our priest. Neither session worked, so I must find my own relief. I love you, darling, with my entire mind, heart, and soul. I need to live a good life before my body goes cold. I'm a fool to leave you and a bigger fool if I stay. I'm a blessed fool as you can't or just won't walk away. Living life itself can be a difficult task without the added stress of a man who wears a mask. A man whose love song is sung via his fists. The man who's unafraid of compelling jail risks. I rid myself of your wicked ways and pray that the future brings our kids and not better days. And again, this was a poem written by Rose Marie Wilson, and you can learn more about her at www.onesinglerose.com. Again, I want to thank everyone for being here, and you can reach out to us at staff.org, at stoptheabuseplease.org, at gmail.com, or our website, www.stoptheabuseplease.org.